Situations came up again. What are the continued issues there, and how are you trying to address it?
Well, I mean, yeah, they did rear their head again, and obviously the first series of the game, we had a pretty nice drive pieced together, and then which really is irrelevant because we weren't able to finish it. I'd much rather have an uglier drive that finishes with a broken play for a touchdown, than a clean drive and then not able to execute when it matters to get the ball in. And so, obviously when you look back at things with hindsight, you say, well, was this the right call? We felt good about the call, and we didn't execute when we needed to execute. And then later in the game, I didn't love the call, on the 4th and 1. Something we'd used earlier in the game on 3rd and 1, and Caden had thumped through there for I think 3 on the first series of the drive, but a little bit different circumstance, 4th and 1. And we just didn't. I didn't do a good job putting our guys in good position, and we didn't execute. That's a bad combination. And so, but obviously, those things have to be addressed, and continue to put more emphasis on those situations to where we can execute better, and I can put our guys in a better position in those situations.
It seems like that first drive of the game, you guys were able to sustain drive. You sustained the drive, moved the ball. I mean, multi-play, 10, 8, 9 plays. But then the rest of the first half, it kind of stalls out. What do you think's behind that? How do you guys fix that?
Well, I think 6 of our 12 drives were 3 and out, and that's no way to put together a good offensive game. You just can't do that. And so, obviously, getting the first down is a critical part of offensive football. And to your point, early in the game, we seem to do better, in that regard than we do sometimes in the middle of the lull. We're very up and down, in that regard. And so, obviously, it's my job to peel back all those layers and to figure out what is the root cause of those things. And not to sound like a broken record, but really the root cause is a multitude of things, and which has got to stop. It's like an execution here by this position player or this position person, and then maybe them having a little bit better call than I have on for our team. And so it's a myriad of things. It's not one thing. It's not one person. It's not one situation. Regardless of that, that's irrelevant. Is we've got to sustain drives better. We've got to do better. We've got to execute better. We've got to have. We just got to be better. And that's such a vague statement and such a a press conference statement, but that's just the truth. We have to execute better to stay on the field, to be able to sustain drives, to give our chance to go score and give ourselves a chance to go score.
Barry, are there specific reasons why you don't feel comfortable with the quarterback under center, or at least Coach Bielema kind of indicated that up until now that has not been something that the staff has been comfortable with?
Yeah, I think we talked about that last week a little bit. Obviously felt comfortable enough to go underneath, on 3rd and 1.
Sure.
And so I think that was a real strong indicator. And I know in my mind, I didn't even flinch on that one. I think so we've really made some strides in the last couple of weeks, of being comfortable to where we felt really strongly about the no concern for the ball security. And so that's something, obviously, as we went back and studied some of the things we did last year even, like we were under there just a little bit more. And so I think that's obviously something that we're looking at. And in those situations in particular, that was the first time that's really showed up. I think 2 actually ran a sneak, I believe against FAU, for a first down underneath. And so we've just been underneath there a handful of times, but that's something that we're to the point. I think we're beyond comfortable at that point, or at this point, and so something that we need to inject a little bit more into our offense.
As you and Bart discuss the offensive line, what are your biggest concerns right now about execution up front?
Well, I think my biggest concern is making sure I'm putting our guys up front in a situation to be successful, right? I think we know, obviously we knew going into the week last week what our lineup was going to be, and some new faces and some new places again. And but I think we're to the point now, this far into the season, that we have a really strong feeling of an understanding of what some strengths and weaknesses are there, and everybody's got them. And then I'm talking about just the line. I'm talking about everybody across in football. Everybody's got strengths and weaknesses. Any team, and ours are as well. And so, I think the conversation mostly steers around, or is centered around, how do we can minimize the weaknesses and maximize our strengths there from the offensive line standpoint. Because it all, everything that we do on any offense runs through the lens of the guys up front. And And so that's kind of been the focus of our conversations.
I mean, I assume we'll learn more about Reggie from Coach Bielema, but without Josh, for sure, like how is your run game affected, maybe with maybe fewer options?
Well, I mean, obviously you're thinner, you know, in the room, but I think to this point of the season, you know, I think I would feel differently if it was week 0 or week 1 where we didn't have a chance to really understand maybe who everybody else was in that room. But I think we're to the point now with, you know, with Caden and Aiden and, you know, Nick Fidanzo, a guy that's ran for us in spring quite a bit in fall camps. And so I'm very comfortable with what those guys bring to the table. And so, but again, it's about me coordinating the offense to play to the strengths of those guys when they're in the game, because I think they're more than capable to help bolster us and to help us run the ball effectively.
I know after the game, Brad had talked about exploring changes or conversations. What have those circled around for you guys in the last few days?
Well, I mean, a bunch of things, you know, a whole bunch of things. Some scheme related, some personnel related, some, you know, way we go about our business in the course of a week, practice structure, a script. You know, I think at this point, when things aren't going the way that we want them to go, I think you have to always really examine everything that you're doing. You know, how you're preparing practice, and you know what the volume of plays that you're carrying, or the different schemes that you're carrying. Are they playing to the strengths? So it's a, you know, it's a full-blown introspection of, or inspection, I should say, of, you know, from everything from A to Z. And so our conversations have centered around Coach, you know, Coach and I's conversations, and to us as a staff have centered around, you know, what we need to do to help improve the offensive output. And so I think he's given some real clear communication in that regard, and it's not been anything but positive as far as, you know, the insight and the point of view that he's coming from. And so we've had some really good conversations, and so we're ready to go this week to, you know, to make some of those small tweaks that some people might not notice with the naked eye, but certainly internally what we do and how we're going about doing it would be a little bit different for our players and for our staff in some areas.
What do you see distinct about Maryland's defense?
Very athletic and big and strong. I mean, like, and very straightforward in the way they play. They're very confident in their scheme. They have multiplicity within their scheme, like a good Big Ten defense does. But I've been really impressed with the way they play. I mean, they're very systematic in their approach. There's not a lot of surprises of where they're going to line up and where they're going to be, and they take great pride in that. So it'll be a great challenge for us.
Barry, you got a point where, you know, on the outside, we can see some different people, especially younger guys, specifically like Nash Hollins, Blake Gelsey, Canary Welcher, or do you think what you have on the outside is good enough to move the football and score goals?
Well, I think our outside receivers are playing well. You know, I think Casey has really played well. Love the way he's led and not flinched and set a strong jaw, and been a great influence for us. And Pat continues to make plays each week, and so obviously in some of those plays have gone to some of the young guys through rotation naturally, you know, during the game, 2-minute, you know, just a natural rotation. But our guys, you know, Casey, Pat, and Isaiah, those first 3 guys and 11 personnel, I feel great about their ability to play and affect the game in the Big Ten, and I think they've already proven that. And my confidence is through the roof with those guys on the perimeter.
Coach, how would you assess Luke Altmaier through the first 6 games?
Well, I would say that he's really made some spectacular plays and has some really good moments, and he's had things that, you know, that need to get corrected, or there's plays that he would have back. You know, obviously I think the most glaring thing is just the totality of ball security, which is an incredibly important aspect of playing quarterback. I do think that's leveled off for him the last few weeks. Obviously had one the other night that was forced in a moment that didn't need to be forced. I think he's made some strides in that area for sure, and you know, we're learning more and more about him on a weekly basis. And I think the way I think he's competing really hard. And you know, the last several games, I mean, he's, you know, we're throwing the ball 40 or 45 times a game, and he's running and scrambling and getting first downs, and you know, so I think his performance, I'm not going to put a letter grade on it, but it's been up and down. But I've been really impressed with some of the moments, and you can see his ability He's becoming a better leader for us. And but ultimately, he and I have the same job, to get us in the end zone, and that's what we have to do, and that's how you're measured in this business and in football games is offensively, and the quarterback is you getting your team in the end zone. So we've got to improve in that area. But I do like the way Luke is playing and competing. Is it perfect? No. Is there things to get corrected? For sure, there are every game, especially when you have the ball and you're making that many decisions in a game. And so, but we need to have a good week this week. We do, and that goes without saying. But I think he's in a good spot as far as what he feels and sees in our offense, and we're continuing to try to build around his strengths.
It seemed to me that you guys had an emphasis on quicker throws on Friday night. How do you feel like that played, and maybe what maybe stating the obvious, but what would end up maybe changing that?
Yeah, we certainly made an concerted effort to get rid of the ball quicker. Obviously, we'd been hanging on the ball a little bit, too much drop back, especially on early downs. No, when it's when you get to third and long, and we were even cautious going into the game in the long category last week. We just wanted to make sure we had shored up our protection and not continue to put our guys, especially considering a new lineup, not continue to put our line, our quarterback, and our back in a stressful situation of 3rd and 8 and 9 and 10 when you're opening yourself up to the exotic fronts, right? And so everybody in this league, when you get beyond 5 or 6 yards, usually they know it's a 80 or 90% pass opportunity, so they can get a little bit more exotic in the way they fit, twist, and cover and those things. So it makes it difficult, and we're having too many of those. So we did level that off the other day, and I think that was positive for us. We got rid of the ball quicker. Our quick game was good for us. So I thought that was a good move for us, and I thought our guys overall responded in the right way and protected the quarterback better, partly because of that.
As you talked about putting the offensive line in the best position, when you do that, does that limit you schematically? Does that force you to be more creative schematically? How does that kind of affect you when you're making?
I'm sorry, I missed that one more time.
No, it's cool. You kind of talked about putting the offensive line in the best spot.
Yeah.
Does that limit you schematically? Does that force you to get more creative schematically? How does that kind of affect you?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it can limit you, but I think we got enough versatility within our system that we can certainly find things. It may be just as simple as saying, let's get off of this scheme and let's insert and substitute this scheme for that. And so I don't really think it limits you. I said it did to some degree, but I think that's just part of being a coordinator in football. Is you're always trying to maximize your strengths and minimize your weaknesses. And every team I've ever been a part of, it had those, and has those. And so ours is obviously no different. So I think you just have to maybe be a little bit more creative and have a little bit more conversation and make sure you're being a little bit more thorough and about the positions you put your guys in.
Coach, when you're struggling like you are on offense, you worry about finger pointing and all that kind of stuff. Have you seen that, or is that not happening now with these guys?
No, I've been really impressed with the way our guys have just continued to go to work and carry themselves on a daily basis. And that's obviously everybody in our building. Everybody in our building wants a better result, and that's very disappointing when you put a week of work in and attention to detail and prepare yourself for the game, and it didn't happen. And so what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You're going to feel sorry for yourself, or point fingers, or look out, like I've said before, look out the window, or are you going to look in the mirror? And I think I'm very confident, and we've got a bunch of guys in our building, coaches and players alike, that are all looking in the mirror to see what can I do to help our offense get on track. And if that's the case, and I believe it's the case, I know it's the case, then we're going to break through at some point. And we're going to put a week of work together and a plan together and go dig deep. And these times will challenge you, and it's one of the beauties of the game. It's not what we want. We certainly would much rather be flourishing than struggling. I promise you that. But when you do struggle and you are fledgling a little bit, that when you break through, there's nothing more rewarding. And so I know that we've got a bunch of guys that are believing like that, and it'll be a challenge this week. It's not going to be easy, going on the road against a really good Maryland team. But that aside, I've been really proud of the coaches and the guys and the players on our side of the ball, and the other side of the ball too, that continue to stay encouraged despite our, our lack of performance. And I'm confident that we're going to get through this.
What gives you that confidence, Barry?
Well, I've been through it before. I'm not here, obviously. I see the way our guys work, and I know we have enough talent. I know we have, I think, a scheme that can help us. We saw that last year to some degree. It was the early part of the year, in the middle part of the year, we had some really good performances, and so in this league. And so I think a lot of the signs are there that we're not as far off as what maybe somebody would think or on the outside would think, or looking at. Yeah, we have some deficiencies, we have some challenges. I got to do a better job, but the fix is not far off. There's a razor thin line between success and failure in this game, in this business, in this league, and we've been on the other side of that too often. And getting on that other side of that line is not very difficult, but it's not necessarily easy either. And that's kind of a strange statement, but it's all laid out there before you. We've got to execute better. I got to put my guys in a better position, and then to get our moment to break through, we need, that would be a big bolster to our confidence, and that's what we need right now.
Barry, when you watch the tape of Friday night, is the run game, especially in the last 3 quarters, a product of you guys just not executing, or Nebraska saying, we're just not going to let you do that? You're going to have to beat us another way.
Yeah, I think a little bit of both. Nebraska was a very unique preparation because of the multiplicity of their fronts, and having some new faces in there added to some of the complexity there, and played a little bit more man coverage to make sure that we weren't getting free run yardage, and a little bit more man than they had played before. And so, again, we had some nice runs, like the first run of the game. It was an awesome run. We had some other surfaces that were there, but there was just too many times we were just an off a guy, just off one guy, and that's all it takes. Against a good defense in our league, and playing our league, if you're not all in sync, and you don't have all 11, really you could say 12, starting with me, making sure I'm putting them in the right position with the play call. If you don't have all 12 guys, on the same page in that regard, it's hard to move the ball, and that was certainly the case, for Friday night.
Yeah, Brett said coming into fall camp, you guys were very concerned about the offensive line. I guess when did that crop up for you guys in the offseason as something to be concerned about?
Well, I think just, through the course of graduation and guys that left, and after spring football and evaluation, I think we knew that, we had some probably, we're a little thin there, and then we kind of maybe complicated that a little bit it got complicated a little bit with some injuries and guys nicked up during fall camp, and the continuity of the line, a little bit inconsistent, and so. And that's kind of, they've kind of, I think every position group to some degree, I don't know if that's a fair statement or not, but we just haven't been as consistent as we need to be there, and had flashes, and we have grit, and we have some toughness, and we got to get more continuity. And again, we got to help play to our guys' strengths a little bit better in that regard, because I'm confident we've got, whoever it is, we got guys in there that are going to give everything they've got, and they're going to play with good detail and be coached well by Bart, and they're going to give us everything they got to help get this thing back on track. And so I don't remember the exact timeline on that. I know that we've had some conversations, there were some concerns, but we always evaluate and kind of nitpick all those, to see, what we feel about our personnel grouping. So I don't know if that was necessarily any more of a conversation than other groupings were.
Thank you.
Yeah.